Hello, everybody, and welcome to our seminar series for today. We are very excited to have a speaker who has a lot of experience in human systems engineering, in particular human brain-computer interaction. He's currently a professor of the Edwards P. Fitz Industrial and System Engineering at North Carolina State University, and also an associate professor at the UNC NC State Joint Department of Biomedical Engineering, Psychology, and Brain Research Imaging Center. His research, as I said, is around brain-computer interfaces, social, cognitive, and affective neuroscience, human-robot interaction, and human-centered explainable AI. And his research has been supported by several federal agencies, including the NSF, the Air Force Research Lab, and the National Security Agency. He is also currently the editor-in-chief of the journal Brain-Computer Interfaces. Please join me welcome Dr. Chang Nam.
Okay, good pronunciation. Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you guys all. Okay, my name is CS Nam. Please call me CS. Okay, so first, thank you for inviting me on this talk, and then also thank you for all of you for joining me in my talk. So I'm glad to share my research interests and then activities with you guys. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the BCI research that have been done, and then also Dr. Newman has been working on this area too. So if you guys have any questions or comments, just feel free to ask me or share your thoughts while I'm talking. Okay. So today, first I'm gonna a little about our program and NC States, okay, and then after that, I will basically introduce you what is actually BCI in terms of like why we want to interface the human brains with the computing technologies, and then how can we measure brain activities. Particularly, I'm gonna focus on electroencephalogram, okay, which is a non-invasive neuroimaging technology. And then my team and my collaborators have been working on this the new technology for years, and we have been developing a couple of research prototypes that I'm going to share with you some of the systems, and then also the main the key findings of those systems. Okay, and I'm going to wrap up my talk with a couple of ongoing and the near future the projects. Okay, the first, we generally, it has been known as human factors ergonomics, but recently we haven't changed this human factor ergonomics program to human systems engineering. So basically, we are interested in how we integrate the human components, right, with the system components based upon our understanding of the humans and also systems, as well as the interaction between humans and systems. So particularly, my team has been, working on the effective computing, which means that we are interested in the identifying the states of the human, like a cognition and the behavioral correlates, and particularly in the brain-computer interface, and also in the context of the human-robot interaction. So we can also use, the humans, the brain activity, okay, in order to interact with, the robots or automation. So I'm gonna share today just key findings, okay, of those three topics. Okay, first, what is the BCI? So my main research interest in now is the the brain-computer interface, right? These are three keywords: brain-computer interface. So basically, we want to interface human brains with the computing technology. The question is the why. Why do we want to interface with the human brain and computing technologies, right? So here, okay, you guys see the two people. Okay, so have you noticed who is the first top person? Do you know anyone? Anyone knows who it is? Who it was actually, right? He passed away. Anyone? Yeah, he was, in a Superman, right? Literally, he was a Superman. And then he was the bottom one, Dr. Stephen Hawking, right? So literally, right? He was the strongest person in this world, right? And also he was, one of the smartest person in this world. So, but what happened to them actually? So basically, they could not, move, right, their muscles at all because they were paralyzed person. So the question here is that as an ISE, right, industrial engineers, so question here is that how can we help like those people who are paralyzed? Well, I mean, you might say, hey, CS, we have like a, really excellent, assist technology. Maybe, or maybe not true, right? Because, the current, most of like assistive technologies, right? Eye tracker, right? Speech recognition, okay? Most of the assistive technology still require some motor movement to some degree, right? The eye tracker, you should be able to control or move your eyeballs. Speech recognition, you should be able to, even move your tongue or like speak to some degree. But what if we cannot, right? Those are like who are paralyzed, okay? Locked in syndrome patient or like a Lou Gehrig's disease patient, right? They cannot move at all, right? So the question is, how can we, help, those people? So I want you to actually try, this one. So how it feels like, to be like a paralyzed, okay? So, I want you to try to follow this one, okay? So I want you to, do this kind of like the motion. So first, extend your ring finger, okay? Extend your ring finger like this, and then rest your hand on a flat surface on your desk, okay? And then press your hand down, okay, a little bit, and then try to lift your ring finger. So anyone who can, lift your ring finger? No, I don't think so, right? No one can actually do it. So that's basically exactly, how it feels like to be like a paralyzed, because which means that your brain, keeps working, right? Your brain, keeps sending the, the command, a signal to your like your arm, your hand, your fingers. But actually, your body, does not actually move as you think. So which means that your brain, nothing wrong with your brain, right? So your brain works fine, properly, but your body, parts does not work. So the idea is that, if we can kind of understand how people actually think, then I think that we can, then we can use that information to allow people interact with an outside world, right? To control the external, systems or to communicate with, people. So that's basically the basic idea of the brain-computer interface technology. So brain-computer interface is a direct interface from the brain to a computer or in a system, so which they can accept, voluntary, commands directly from the brain without requiring any, physical movement. So as you, see this, the general BCI framework. So basically, we measure, okay, brain signal using some neuroimaging technologies. I will give you kind of some brief overview of different kinds of neuroimaging technologies here. So then we pre-process and process the brain signals, different kinds of brain signals, okay, and then using some classification technologies, machine learning, statistical analysis, or deep learning, the AI, and then finally, we may be able to decode, right? Understand what people actually think. In this case, this user wants to, move mouse cursor to the, any directions. But at this point, we are using like a mouse or trackball, right? Kind of some any input device. But again, those all input devices require motor movement. But think about, those who are paralyzed, they cannot use, mouse or trackball, right? They can, but they can still think. So we actually measure what they want. They want to, whether they want to move the mouse cursor to the right, left, or up and down, right? So then we measure their brain signals, process, and extract some features, and then use that, to decode their thoughts. And then After the training phase, right, then we can build a classifier, and then finally, we can, okay, classify the incoming new, brain signals to classify, their intentions, so that they can maybe, type the letters, they can write, emails, and also they can even like a control wheelchair or some external device. So that's basically, BCI, okay, what the BCI technology. And then this is shows like a quick summary of like different technologies that are used in each stage of the BCI framework. So here, brain signal acquisitions like from the non-invasive, like the EEG, like fNIRS or fMRI, to the invasive neuroimaging technology, such as ECOG, or sometimes we also plant, right, kind of chips or some small device inside the brain. Okay, so then we can measure. The people have found many different kinds of brain signals, like a P300 new rhythm, steady state visually evoked potentials. Okay, so I'm gonna show a couple of examples later. And then we need to pre-process the brain signals. Particularly in the brain signals, measured by non-invasive neuroimaging technologies contain a lot of noisy signals. So it is the key, okay, to filter out the noise signals. So then we can extract some meaningful, the features. Okay, sometimes power spectrum, density, or from the time frequency analysis, or some very unique the signal, like an event related desynchronization or the ERS. Okay, so I will show what each feature is in the next slide. And then as you see in the different classification algorithm, from the very basic statistical analysis, like a stepwise, the discriminant analysis, to support the vector machine, hidden Markov model, neural network, deep learning model, right? So people have been trying to apply different classification. But the thing is that as of like today, we do not have any commercialized BCI system. Okay, so that tells about current state of this technology. So it is true that neuroscientifically, right, and also about the human brain, we have been made very significant progress. So we know a lot about human brains, how it works, but still, you know, we do not know all about human brain, how they work. So that's why this technology is still, I would say, immature, okay, and it's still a long way to go. Okay, that's why a lot of people like me are working on this area. And the application, some spelling system like a robot, medical devices like a wheelchair, prosthetic, or even like the neuroergonomics and issues like to detect like emotional state, or like whether you are sad and happy, or like excited. So those emotional states, or any cognitive states. So by utilizing BCI, we can also understand humans like cognitive states. I will show you one example in the next slide. Okay. Okay. So like I said earlier, like the first motivation of the BCI is to the help people who are totally paralyzed, who cannot use their muscles. So that by using this kind of the concept, right? The concept we can actually replace, restore, supplement, or improve like the lost like a the motor and cognitive function. But the problem still here is okay, the accuracy is not still good enough. That's why we do not have any commercialized BCI system now. Okay, so accuracy is still less than 50%, up to 84% or 90%. But depending on the BCI system types, some systems works very well. Actually, we can have up to more than 95 accuracy. I will show the one example later. But the other types of BCI, okay, accuracy is not good enough yet. But those accuracy generally have been measured within a healthy the participants, okay, kind of normal people. But if you test the BCI systems within the patients who have like a brain damages, that's a different story. The accuracy is the terrible still. Okay, yeah. So that's the kind of main limitation or weaknesses in this domain. The other one is that BCI again, right? It can be used, to understand the human, cognition, right? Human cognition, and understand, people's thoughts. So this BCI technology, has been used, as a neuroergonomics tool to understand one. Okay. Then I will show you, one example, the later. So basically here, like when this guy, moves, right? The performed this task, what which brain areas, okay, are activated at which time, okay, and how each brain area communicate with the other brain area, okay. So that kind of information, right? So that if we know that, we can design in a better system, okay, they can better support human performance physically and also cognitively here, right? So while driving, also while the controlling some other the systems here, okay. So I will show you an example later, okay. So then again, the one the main limitation in this domain is that the methodologies that people have been adopted are still like very limited, and then also a limitation. So I will introduce kind of one of the advanced technologies, okay, in order to understand the human brain. So before I talk about before I show some of the BCI the systems, okay, let me first show you how we gonna measure brain activity. So you can basically you consider only three things here. Basically two, like hardware complexity is the last one, but you can understand the two things here. One is the whether neuroimaging methods are direct or indirect methods, which means that particularly EEG, right? In encephalogram, electroencephalogram, that is direct neuroimaging method because, as you know, like how you guys can understand, right, how brain works, more specifically, how neurons like communicate, right, with each other, okay, through the like postsynaptic potentials, which is electrophysiological the signals. So EEG, okay, measures, okay, this the electrical potentials, actually. So electrophysiological potentials, which are the like a direct indicator of the human cognition. But on the other hand, like fMRI and fNIRS, right, fMRI, okay, so that is the not a direct, that is the indirect method because fMRI can measure what the amount of oxygen consumed by the brain. You know what I'm saying? So brain does not have any energy source. Okay, so brain actually use this energy get delivered by the blood. So the depending on your cognition. So whether you paid attention or not, okay, the amount of blood will be different. So fMRI actually measures the amount of oxygen, like the blood, right? The oxygen delivered by the blood, okay, so that is not a direct indicator of human cognition. So that is the indirect method. So you can actually consider and choose, okay, either EEG, direct EEG, or indirect fMRI, fNIRS methodology. But then the other dimension is time resolution versus spatial resolution. So which means that EEG has the excellent time temporal resolution, which means that EEG measures brain activity at millisecond interval. That's good, right? Very fast. But on the other hand, in fMRI, fNIRS, okay, has the excellent spatial resolution, but not really good, temporal resolution. The EEG is the opposite. So EEG has excellent temporal resolution, but not good like spatial resolution. So EEG measures, right? We put some electrode on the surface of the scalp. I mean, think about how many neurons get located under that area, get the 2 to 3 centimeters. But the fMRI is more like a camera. You guys haven't seen MRI, like fMRI, the pictures, right? So this fMRI can take a picture of exact location. So it has a very excellent spatial resolution, but temporal resolution is not good. So even like at the best, the system right now can measure only like 2 to 5 seconds at a time. So 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. In the neuroscience domain, one second, which is 1,000 milliseconds, is a long time, long time. Okay, so we think about the 2 seconds is like we can only understand brain activity in terms of the fMRI, the every 2,000 milliseconds. Okay, so that I mean is really not a long time. So you can compare. Okay, so the EEG versus fMRI. Okay, along with other the system. Okay, so there is no one perfect system like a neuroimaging technology now. So the ideally, okay, we want to combine an EEG and fMRI, okay, as a methods together, right? So that we can have like excellent temporal resolution as well as spatial resolution. But technically, technically not possible, but also it's very difficult, okay, to combine two technologies. So that's how we measure it. So EEG is basically non-invasive recording of like a voltage, like a small voltage, very tiny voltage, that fluctuations, okay, due to like a ionic current flows like within the neurons. Basically, the postsynaptic electrophysiological signals, and then mathematically that we can model okay, EEG signals like over time okay, with multiple brain sources. Okay, so that's basically what EEG is about. And the first one I want to show introduce is a P300 brain signal. So this is basically positive peak. So P means like the positive. So brain signal are like described okay, with the two dimensions. One is the whether the signals are positive signal or positive peak, right? Along the like a zero, like that's the baseline, like a positive peak as you see here, right? So positive down here, or like a negative, like a P means the positive peak, N means the negative peak. And then next one you see like a numerical values that is represent like a time information. So 300 milliseconds. So P300 is that is a brain signal, okay, that occurs like that is a positive peak, right? That occurs like a 300 millisecond after the stimulus onset. That's what the P300 is. So for example, you can think about, 0 and x are randomly presented. Then now you are asked, okay, to attend whenever, you see the only x stimulus, you do something cognitive. You think about something or just mentally count, okay, how many times you see x. But when you see, all zero, I mean, any zero stimulus, you do not think at all. Right? I'm giving you some very the simple example. So then, when you actually mentally count, which means that you are engaged, right, mentally with this X stimulus. So then, your brain will generate a positive peak signal, okay, 300 milliseconds, generally 300 milliseconds, not exactly in the millisecond, but we just set up the time window like from 200 milliseconds to like 800 millisecond or 600 millisecond or like a minus like a 100 millisecond to like a 500 millisecond. So then if you calculate this brain signal process and calculate, then you will find positive peak during that time window. So that is called the P300, which means that as you compare with other stimulus which you did not mentally think, right, then there will be no actual fluctuations, okay, theoretically. So then by looking at the brain signals, right, two signals, whether you attended or not, okay, we can find out whether you when you were attending to the stimulus by looking at the P300 signal. So this using the DC signal, that's the P300 signal generally is used to develop, I mean, design like a communication application of the BCI, so that people can actually type the letters. So one example like this one. So this is the P300 and speller system, like a pretty like a famous BCI the system. So in this case, like I'm sorry, this BCI has like a row by column, like a matrix type of a user interface. So each letter and then each the numbers, okay, and then every time in each row and each column, okay, will be flashing, okay. Then here's a test. For example, in this case, the F letter in the parentheses, okay, is the letter this user is supposed to type. So then how can he type this F letter? So each row and columns will be flashing randomly. Then this user is attended only which one? The rows and in the columns that contain the F letter. All the other rows and columns, this person does not attend at all. So then, we can extract the P300 signals, right, from the rows and columns that contain the target letter. So then we can, find out which letter, okay, this person wants to type. So that's based on how P300 BCI actually works. Okay, so this system is very working good, right? This generally we can have like a more than 90% in accuracy. Okay, so if you take more time, basically you can also improve like the accuracy. Okay, this is the one of the system like a P300 based BCI. The second type of BCI is called SSVEPS. That's the steady state visually evoked potential. So this one we use like a visual stimuli. So as you see here, like we developed two like LED visual stimuli here. So this LED okay will generate certain visual kind of blinking, right? Blinking at certain frequency, okay, 5 hertz, 10 hertz. So then very interestingly, the human brains when you actually see the visual stimulus blinking at a certain frequency, the human brain generates the first, exactly same, like a brain signals, okay, of like exactly same frequency. Let's say this one is the 8 hertz, then first harmonic 8 hertz, and then also second and third harmonics. Okay, theoretically, fourth harmonic, but that is very tiny. So generally we consider first, second, and third harmonic. That's very interesting. Okay, so we measure like the occipital okay, cortex here. That's where like a visual, stimuli they are, the process. Okay, so if we measure, occipital, the cortex, primary visual cortex. Okay, let's say you have like a, any numbers of visual stimuli. Okay, one hertz, 3 hertz, 3.5 hertz, 5 hertz, 7 hertz, 9 hertz. So all like a visual, the lights are the blinking, then you just look at only one, okay, and then your brain will generate first harmonic, second harmonic, and third harmonic. So by only looking at the, after the pre-processing the brain signal, we can find out the which, the light, which, a visual stimulus, okay, you are looking at. So then we can use that signal is called the steady state visually evoked potential. So this, as steady state, the evoked potential are also like generated by the other sensory and modality, such as like a tactile vibration, same thing. Okay, and also auditory signal is the same thing. So that is called steady state. Okay, somatosensory evoked potential by tactile or vibration. Okay, but steady state auditory evoked potential by using different like a sound, like a different pitches. Okay, that's the how human brain actually works. So if we use the SSVP, we actually apply this technology to controlling a medical device like a prosthetic. So you can imagine right who have like hand pleasure, right? The whose hand the arms are paralyzed, right? So then generally the therapists and doctors, right? They hold a patient the paralyzed arm and moving like the passively. But with this technology, the patient like can like actively control medical device without using any their muscle movement. So this is the example of a medical application of BCI. The other one is, it's called like ERD, ERS. That's a sensory motor rhythm. Okay, this one is kind of unique, and this one, the first one is, the first two examples that I, presented, are generally not considered, okay, as like a true BCIs. Why is that? Because the way the previous two BCI work is that we present external stimuli, right, and the people are asked to respond, and we actually measure their brain activities and figure out what they wanted to do. But real BCI is the one. So people actually need to think, right, and also anytime, okay, anything they want without any external stimuli. So that is the example of this sensory motor rhythm, ERDS, which means that when people actually think to, people actually intend to move their motor body parts, okay, the brain signals get at a specific like a frequency band. In this case, like a alpha frequency band, like 8 to 13 hertz, and the signal will be dropped here. Signals will reduce, okay, while moving, and then after you stop moving your bodies, then the brain signal will come back to the normal, you know, uh, normal phase. So this one is called like an event-related desynchronization, kind of reduction in the brain signal, like alpha band, or like the beta band, okay, 13 to 25 hertz. The other one is event-related synchronization. Okay. So by using this one, we can also find out exactly when and what people wanna move. Okay, so that is the sensory motor rhythm based BCI. So by using this one, this case, right? This case, so you don't see any external stimuli. So this is like a flight simulator, like a game. So the task here is that two targets, like at the top left, the top right, will be displayed randomly, and the task here is that to control this aircraft, okay, to hit the target randomly displayed in each side by imagining like a squeezing, like two different body parts. Okay, in this case, like a right hand versus the left, foot. Okay, so then the brain signal, will generate like a ERD, ERS signal. So if we use those signals so that this person can control this aircraft to the left or like to the right. Okay, so you see the any visual stimuli. Okay, yeah. But this one is the most difficult like in the system. So as you might think, right, that you are smart, you think anytime you want, whatever you want, but actually brain does not work that way. Okay, so according to empirical studies, 20% of a population do not modulate this kind of like a brain signal, like some modulation, right? Reduction and enhancement at the 8 to 13 hertz and 13 to 25 hertz, like they are called like a mu rhythm, okay, or the beta rhythm. Okay, 20% population do not actually modulate that signal. So which means that those people are not good like a subject for BCI experiments. Okay, so they cannot actually modulate their brain signals. The other one is the medical application to control this, the functional electrical stimulation. Right? That's the medical device that stimulates paralyzed muscles using very tiny electrical signal. So we actually integrate this FES medical device with the sensory motor rhythm based BCI. So this patient imagine, okay, and then the different like, body movements then the control, the FES in the system. See, so you see the movement of like a paralyzed foot. Okay, so that's basically the BCI kind of quick overview of BCI systems and some of the prototypes that that our teams have been developed in a study. Okay, and then of course, this technology is not matured yet. Okay, so within BCIs, which means that we need to think to whatever we want and whenever we want without any errors, right? And also we need to know what people actually think, but that's not the case this time, right? There are, I mean, there's still a lot of research issues in here. Okay, so the from the neuroergonomics perspective, the first understand is that the most of the BCI systems are still single user systems. Okay, and then um, we do not know whether the BCI also can support like a collaboration like between the two people. Okay, not the physically, like the mentally. So that's what we tested over here. So we actually tested this P300 BCI systems with wheelchair. What we found is that the accuracy, as you see here, like a severely disabled, still around the 65%. Okay, and the non-disabled like around in 88% and on average. Okay, on average, that's the one thing. The other one is that even within like a patient groups, we observed kind of variations in performance. Some patients are still as good as like a normal people. Other patients are not as very good. So which means that BCI system should be individualized. Okay, not a the general the system. Okay, so that's basically what we found. And the for your information, generally in the BCI in the community, we kind of like accept like a BCI kind of working properly on generally when the system has the at least like a 70% accuracy. Okay, that's kind of the general rule of thumb. Okay, so then the still within the patient, this technology should be improved a lot. And then, to find to investigate, the brain functions between the different groups, we actually, use this method like a coherence. That's, coherence between the different brain regions, okay, to find out why then, performance were different between the different groups. So using this method, we analyze, and then as you see here, okay, so you see the lines, right? So then the red lines the indicates the brain connections. Okay, more like a brain connections in the patient group. Like a dot to the blue lines indicates the connections, more connections. Okay, in the everybody. That's the normal people. So what the as you see here, so you see more like a red lines here, right? So more connections in the like a motor disabled like a patient group. So what does this mean actually? So this actually shows like a less inefficient okay brain news in the patient group. I mean that makes sense, but because they have like a brain damages and also their brains kind of do not function as good as like a normal people, okay, to some degree. So which means that to due to the same task, like a patient in the group should like recruit like a patient a patient brain should include more resources than actually required. So that actually led to inefficiency of the brain the functions here, and then that actually the consequently led to like lower like a performance. So then this result is consistent with an fMRI study. So this fMRI shows the expert pianist versus novice pianist. So two groups like a played piano and then an fMRI was used to measure the amount of oxygen used by the expert versus novice pianist. So as you see here, expert, right, the brain, the oxygen used only this is kind of primary motor cortex here, but novice users, right, many different brain regions were actually involved. So this one actually took a longer time and also like a poor performance. So that shows very efficient like the brain strategy actually. Okay, so I think you can think about when you the learn how to drive for the first time. So at that time, right? So maybe your daddy, right? He taught you how to drive, and then you controlling the wheel, and then looking at the rear mirrors, and then looking at the street. Like it was you're so busy, but your driving performance is still not good, right? That's not. But the think about how you drove to, this morning. I don't think you guys even use the two hands, right? I can use only one hand, the other hand holding like maybe coffee or like listening to the music or talking on the phone with your friend, but still your like a driving performance is much better than like a bit before, right? So which means that brain okay needed to use or recruit okay the sources okay resources only required sources and also brain regions only required. Okay, other brains are involved that actually the inefficient and the performance will be poor and then it will take a longer time. Okay, so that's basically what we found here. So then the question is then what if then they work together? Can we somehow like supplement like this the not as good like the performance? So that was kind of our research idea. So then we actually developed the another like a BCI the system which is called the collaborative BCI. So which means that we actually combine brain signals from the two people simultaneously, and then use that information to control the system, right? Two people here. So that is called the collective BCI, and then this shows on the use motor imagery, and this is just basically two people okay control this robotic arm okay using the two brain signals together actually together. Okay, so by manipulating different like a task, individual task, which means that one person performs this task individually, and then the other condition is the sequential. This is more like a turn by turn in a task, right? The other one is simultaneous. Okay, two people performed one task simultaneously. So then we actually compare the BCI performance among the three different conditions here. So this is what we did, and then I'm gonna skip this the ease analysis. Then I can answer the questions you might have about those the technologies here. So here, what we found is that in terms of like accuracy, task completion time, and then information transfer rate, okay, ITR, that's the digit per a minute. Okay, that's information transfer rate. And then we found, compared to individual mode, we found like a simultaneous and like a sequential mode were better than one single individual mode. So which means that this one shows that collaborative BCI is feasible, okay, by using two brains, the two brain signals simultaneously. So we can actually supplement the performance of a single BCI neutron. Okay, then the last one is that the one example of neuroergonomics. So particularly we studied the working memory. The working memory is as you guys might know, that's a temporary the memory system in the brain. Okay, so the that's how you guys perform an actual task. Okay, because of the working memory. So then we actually tested individual differences in working memory capacity because we are all different because in terms of working memory capacity. Okay, and then does that affect the brain function in terms of like a causality of a brain network? So remember that the one limitation that I mentioned earlier is that the current method, the brain signal, I mean neuroscience method like a frequency band analysis, time frequency domain analysis, like a power analysis, they are still like a general and then like a discrete methodologies that did not give us like a full like a the like a picture of the brain function. So people have the worked and then developed new technologies. So we use the adopted one of them, which is called the causality analysis. Like that is called the effective connectivity analysis, which can show the causal relationships between different brain regions. So which brain area affected, which other brain region or regions, or like which brain area was affected by which other like a brain region, right? So that's the show the causal relationship. Okay. So this the effective connectivity shows like the causal relationships among brains. This shows one like a video clip that we actually developed. This one shows like there are like the 8 the brain sources. Then shows the the relationships among those 8 brain regions over time. Okay. So then you see like the one area becomes the larger. That means that this one is actually the source affecting the other one. And you also see then the strength, I mean the connectivity between the brain region, and also like the thickness of like the line indicates the strength of like the connections. So we can actually find out that information. Okay, yeah. So we actually use this dual task experiment design to like manipulate different like task difficulty. Okay, and then what we found, let me show that. I'm gonna skip the behavior performance. Okay, so 2 back the more difficult task, and then the 0 back is very easy task. The more difficult task, you see more like a lower accuracy, okay, as compared to 1 back and 2 back, and also response time, right, were longer than the other like easy task. So that's the kind of expected, but our interest not in the behavioral performance here is the brain functions. What's going on, okay, when people perform like an easy task versus very difficult task, and in terms of like the differences in the working memory capacity here. So I'm not going to do go into detail, but what you see here is that we found like depending on the task difficulty, right, easy, medium, and the hard. What you see here is that different brain regions were involved, and also their connections were also different. So now then, it's possible that we understand what's going on, right, at each time, and also then how can we help when people perform like a more difficult task. So that's basically the what we need to try to find out here. Okay. So then this one also shows the different like a brain relationship here. Okay, the according to the different like the task difficulty here. So which brain the area was the played the major role here. So simply saying in the high working memory capacity group, they actually write the temporal the lobe, and the low working memory capacity group, they actually used more like the anterior cingulate cortex. Okay, that's the main part of the memory, the functions. So you might not understand very clearly what this means, but let me tell you this example. So what it means is that so now you guys see this slide, right, and also listen to my explanation, right, in terms of like auditory, the sound, right, information, and now then you may or may not understand. So which means that you just keep thinking and also utilizing what you already know, and then combining with this new information from the slide and from my voice, right, my explanation. So now you understand or you don't understand. Okay. So then why that happens? Because if you understand, okay, what you see and what I what I explain, because what you see is the processed by your visual cortex, and that the information now go to the like your prefrontal cortex, right, through the other brain regions. So that means that your visual cortex and prefrontal cortex are connected, interconnected, right, at the right time within the right amount of information. So that's how you understand quickly what you see. But what if you don't understand, and sometimes you don't understand, and then you just keep thinking what this is about? So which means that shows connections between your visual cortex and prefrontal cortex are not communicated very, efficiently, okay, even very well. So this is, the different, like, the connection actually shows, okay, show that kind of relationship, okay. So then how can you use this information? Let's say, your visual cortex, is just supposed to, like, communicate it with your frontal cortex at the right time with, right amount of information. What if you did not? What if you cannot? Then, we can, design a system or redesign the system in a way that can, support your visual cortex, right? So that your visual cortex can communicate, the better with, prefrontal cortex. That's the implication of the neuroergonomics, okay, out of, BCI research. Okay, let me skip the other, the parts here. Okay. Okay, so that's the, overview of a neuroergonomic study using, BCI, the technology to understand the human, cognition. Okay, so we can also apply this technology to understand or, like, identify the people's emotional state, whether people were in, like, different emotional states, or not. Okay. And then, as a part of, like, a future, work and also our ongoing project, okay, we can use this, the concept, the idea, for the human robot interaction. So as you see, like, a lot of people are working in this domain, right, where, like, people interact with the robot, and then the main goal in this area is to make robots smart, right, the intelligent. So something like using like a reinforcement learning, okay. Then, like, a feedback mechanism is very, important here. So how can robots understand what people actually think? So we use, like, a machine vision, right? Some other, like, sensors, but still those, they are like a passive, feedback mechanisms here. So if we use, like, a new BCI technology, it's possible that robots can understand or, like, know what people think directly from the, the robot's, partner, which is the humans, the brain actually signals here. So this one shows that when the robot, performs the incorrectly, the human actually can recognize that. So which is called, like, error-related potential. So which means that, interestingly, like, when you guys did make a mistake or error, or even when you observe other people or other systems, like, they make an error, your brain generates a very unique brain pattern, which is called error potentials, as compared to when you do correctly, and also when you observe other people perform, like, correctly. Very interesting, right? So which means that then robot can understand, oh, I made a mistake, or I did wrong, just, receiving, brain signal information from the user directly. So that's basically how we developed, this technology here. Okay. The other one is like I said earlier, most of neuroscience is, like, is concerned about only one brain, one person. But now then, technologically, or and also, like, theoretically, it's possible that to combine and also the measure more than one brain simultaneously. That is called, like, a hyperscanning, okay, discipline. So hyperscanning means that, measuring, multiple brains, okay, simultaneously, and, they investigate whether those brains, they synchronize or not, over time. Okay, that is that has very interesting implications. Generally, this one shows, like, the education application. So even now, I mean, you and I, so here are a lot of people here, right? And then, so right now, I see the 19 participants, right, including me. So if we can, measure 19 brains at the same time, I mean, think about it now. What can we do? So first one is, okay, whether my, the brain is really, the similar to your brains or some of your brains, okay, whether you are on the same page or not. So behaviorally, it's difficult, right? Unless you say something, oh, Dr. Nam, I don't understand. Unless you say, or unless you just show that, your, face, for example, right? But I don't know. I cannot know. I have no idea whether you are like understand what I'm saying or not. Okay, but if you use this technology, hyperscanning technology, we can measure like 19 brains simultaneously, and then also investigate whether 19 brains are like synchronized, they're going to one direction or not, and at each time point. Okay, so that is kind of like a future work. Okay, in this domain. Okay, so they kind of recognize my students, funding agencies, and collaborate. Okay, and so okay, that's all I have today. And if you guys have any questions, I would be happy to answer that. Thank you
Uh,
for your attention.
yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Nam, for this very insightful presentation. And the floor is now open. I think we have a few minutes for questions. If you have any question, you can either type it or you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, you can type.
So, Dr. Nam, whilst we wait for questions, I think I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I'll ask the first one, which is quite in the news now, using non-invasive technology instead of non-invasive like we're using, invasive technology, and we see Elon Musk and his Neuralink. What's your take on that?
Oh yeah, I mean the two things. One is that still a lot of people like me are working on brain in non-invasively, right? So non-invasively has been a lot of activities because we cannot look into brain directly. Uh,
Mhm,
but then the some people are some company like the Elon Musk, right? The method they use is the invasive method, right? So
yeah.
they actually implant, kind of chips inside the brain. So which means that we don't have to really worry about, noisy signals, and then you can directly, investigate the brain signal. But reality is that, right? I mean, you and I, right? We cannot, find the, volunteers who are willing to. Oh, hey, doctor, please open up my brain. Okay, do whatever you want to do. So that's not possible, right? But but we for the like a practical the uses, right? So we also have to study and also investigate in a non-invasive method. Yeah. So then again, I mean, I think I'm in favor of their the methodology. Okay, non I mean invasive method. But the other thing is that again, and one thing I can tell you is that if you go to YouTube right now, just type the brain computer interface, you guys will see tons of YouTube clips. It's quite amazing, right? People can control like an
Mhm.
airplane, like a robot in a wheelchair right away, and then, but I would just say that's not the all true. Okay, so again, we don't have any commercialized any system yet. Okay,
Okay.
so some Elon Musk kind of people, they are very pioneer. They invest a lot of money, but still like the progress is still slow. As you know, like the human brain is very small organ, right?
Mhm.
But it's quite amazing. It's a complex system. I think it's still long way like to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? So I think I can ask my second question, which borders on multimodal data collection using all these approaches. So you spoke at length about EEG. What about FNIRS, EEG, multimodal brain imaging? Do you think there's room for that? And of course, I know each has its own advantage with respect to spatial and temporal resolution, but
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, that's the idea. So again, I mean, EEG and fMRI, can be, combined. But as you know, right, the fMRI does not allow any, any other like a material, like a metal material, particularly. So EEG electrodes are generally, made by like a gold, right, and then, the copper. So the combining EEG, system and fMRI, it's technologically, the possible, but technically, not easy actually. Right? It's not possible. But then the alternative is the FNERs.
yeah, I was referring to FNIRS, yes.
Yeah, so FNERs, it's possible, but still, the FNERs has, generally has very small number of channels, right?
Mhm.
And also the the mainly or like only measure prefrontal cortex, right? So then the combined EEG and FNIRS are not the perfect solution yet, but still I think they have to complement to brain the function measurement in terms of like a temporal resolution and spatial resolution.
Okay.
But the cost wise very expensive,
Mm,
right?
that's true.
It's very expensive two systems, yeah. Okay,
So
I know. I mean, this the technology kind of seems to be new to you guys, but I mean, the from student. I mean, what you guys the studying right now, like operation research, the manufacturing. So, someone has some comments about this technology. I'd like to hear your thoughts from BCI. No more questions. Okay.
well, I don't see any questions coming in, but of course you can always send your questions to Dr. Nam if you have
Sure.
any
Yeah.
questions. Yes.
Hmm.
We have his email, and again, this has been recorded, so you can always watch it. And if after watching have any further questions, you can always direct it to Dr. Nam.
Hmm. All right.
So, on that note, I would like to thank you all and thank Dr. Nam especially for this presentation. And thank you, and I wish you a
Yeah,
very
thank you
good.
for inviting me again, and it was nice meeting you again. So okay, good luck with there.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dr. Nam.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye bye.